to VoteProPot-Cast, the award-winning cannabis news podcast brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Here are your hosts, Phil Adams, Jay Britton, and Andrew McCreadys.
Well, welcome everybody to another episode of VoteProPot-Cast. We're really glad to have you today. We have a special episode today. We have as our guest an author, entrepreneur, and cocktail whisperer, and we're going to find out just what a cocktail whisperer is. Let's welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, Warren Bobrow. Did I say your name correctly, Warren? Bobrow?
Bobrow, yes, correct.
All right. So now you've got a company that you started, which you are the CEO of. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's a drinks company, and I'm making a nano-infused THC-based craft mocktail. So it's going to be something very interesting.
Warren is the author of Cocktails, Mocktails, and Tonics.
Cannabis cocktails, mocktails, and tonics.
Cannabis cocktails. I forgot the most important word. It was the one in the biggest block letters at the top, and I forgot it.
And I want to know, I bought your book about 3 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I went to get it out to read it, and I'm packing, I'm getting ready to move, and I can't figure out what friggin' box it's in. But I do remember...
You're going to have to buy another one.
No, there you go. I'll find it. But it was a good book. I'm a chef.
Andrew is a chef. Did you play around with decarbing and infusing?
Absolutely. I've been playing around with decarbing and infusing for...
Were you happy with the strength of what you...
Yes. You know what I find when I make edibles and stuff lately, I live in Maryland and we have a medical program, so I just go and get RS oil. And
okay. Yeah, that's illegal. I don't think we can get that in New Jersey. I have a medical card here, and it's pretty restrictive.
Yeah, very. But anyway, great book.
What is a cocktail whisperer?
Someone who unlocks flavors that they're familiar to you, but you're not quite sure why you know them, and kind of whisper in your ear and say, "You know what that is?" And they say, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. So that sounds like something you can't really learn. You just have to intuitively know. Is that about right?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I grew up on a farm, and I was always cooking from an early age. I was taught how to cook at an early age, so I'm familiar with ingredients and flavors and what flavors go together. And that's kind of like whispering.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now tell me about your company. You are a CEO and founder.
It's a big word that means that I have to learn how to do everything.
Right.
Chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah,
I think
that's right.
But no, it was my idea, and I created as I said, an infused THC infused drink that is gleaned from the pages of cannabis cocktails with a couple twists added. Because there's been some travel between the time that I wrote cannabis cocktails and now, and in that time I was a brand ambassador for a craft rum company. Now there's no alcohol in my beverage that I'm coming out with, but when I worked for this craft rum company, part of the responsibilities of that job was to go to Russia and teach at the Moscow Bar Show, which I did gladly. And while I was there, I interacted with people who were from Vietnam, who were there to do their cocktail events as well, like I was. Okay. And one of the ingredients that they use in Vietnam is rice wine vinegar, and that's the secret ingredient in my my beverage because it gives rice wine smack too. It gives you a nice crisp little. When you
kind of a brightness to it.
Like a little bite, just a tiny little bite. And my drinks, as a rule, are not sweet, so they're kind of sour to maybe a little bit sweet.
So now you're marketing this concoction?
Soon. It'll be out in November.
Where?
Right before Thanksgiving in California. In California, New Jersey does not allow what I do.
I didn't think so. And in California, you can't have, like you said, you can't have alcohol in cannabis.
You can't have alcohol.
Right.
Well, can you have alcohol in any beverage? Could you infuse cannabis in any alcoholic beverage in the United States Is it legal anywhere?
No, it's because of the THC. That's
Right.
that's the kicker. You can't mix THC and alcohol and spirits. It's
Right.
Yeah. Someone might get high.
well, you do what's called a crossfade, and I love that feeling. But our powers that be don't necessarily feel the same way. So.
Wow. Yeah. I think what we need is new powers that be.
Well, you get your opportunity to do that very soon.
Very soon.
Yep.
Hey, let me ask you a question. You're a contributor at Forbes.
Yes, I am.
And I've read a lot of your stuff there. And boy, you've interviewed all kinds of cannabis movers and shakers, CEOs and investors and all kinds of different people. What are your thoughts on the cannabis industry? I mean, what do you see as kind of a trend?
My thoughts as an industry, I think people are getting smarter. They're starting to get back to the land, if you will. One of the things that I like to say that I follow, one of the many things I follow, but one that I follow and I really enjoy is the use of biodynamics and organics in propagating cannabis, outdoor grown, under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important, and doing it as little as you have to do to make a product as healthful as possible. I think that's really important. I grew up on a biodynamic farm in New Jersey belonging to my family. So they put that into my brain at an early age, that it was good to have something that we call living soil, that every batch, the soil doesn't get thrown out. The soil is part of the equation.
Sure.
And it's the most important part of the equation.
And that matches well with sort of the audience, you know. I think the cannabis audience in general tends to be open to that, as opposed to the big corporate farming and all that kind of thing.
Well, there's that as well. And that's, I want to focus on the topics that I want to focus on. And no one really tells me what to do. That's a nice thing in life to not have to work for the man anymore. And, I follow the guidelines that are set out to me. But I love writing about, small producers, small farms, like this little one right here.
So do you believe?
This is from New Jersey.
So do you believe there should be an appellation system in cannabis?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've always promoted the appellation system, like in Napa and in Sonoma, and for wine. I think it's extremely important to have appellation.
Well, Mendocino County, doesn't Mendocino County have like 12 appellations now?
I believe so, but there's nothing in Napa, and there should be, because the soil's so darn good there.
For our listeners, remind us what the appellation system means.
It's that you were reminded to produce the wine under certain regulations, if you will, and it's different regions have different approaches to the propagation of wine. Sometimes they use special yeast. Sometimes they use wild yeast. Sometimes the yeast comes from the farmer down the block, but you have to use that in different appellations. And a lot of it goes back to terroir. It's the flavor of the place, the taste of the place, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I think that does apply to cannabis, especially, outdoor grown cannabis. Indoor grown, you can make something any place and have it taste
right. So it doesn't apply indoor.
That's different.
But we've been growing indoor because it was illegal for so many years, and now that it's legal, now people are starting to grow outdoors again, and I think it's going to open up a whole new
in Maryland,
chapter.
You should be able to do very nicely there, because it's the soil is so rich, and
there are a few most of the growers are indoor. There's a lot of greenhouses, and I've heard that there have been some outdoor grows. So,
wow.
Well, what do you think? What do you,
not in New Jersey.
Warren, what do you think about, you talk about small, boutique kind of farms? What are their chances of surviving in this kind of corporate culture? I mean, we're seeing it in all these states like California, New York, New Jersey, where they have the vertical system to get a license, and so
they're just carving it out.
It's these huge corporations coming in.
Yeah, they're out there, but there's always going to be craft cannabis, and that's something that I focus on. I try not to worry about the big players as much as I want to focus on the ones that are.
We agree completely.
So when you say craft cannabis, do you mean growers, processors, retailers?
Yeah, how do they survive in a vertical requirement with the vertical requirements?
But the vertical requirements are something different, and we're that I love vertically integrated grows. I think that's really important to have that because it's always nice to be able to do everything in house. But I spend a lot of time talking to farmers who are under the Flocana umbrella out in Humboldt County, and these are all mom and pop farms that are legal, not illegal. They're legal mom and pop farms, and they're doing the best job they can to make to grow the best product that they know how to grow. And I think that's really, really important. And terroir fits into it, especially the outdoor grown. Sunrise Mountain Farms is one that I speak very highly of. I also speak very highly of Brotherly Love in Humboldt. And then there's just a number of different places that are growing, and those aren't under the Flocana umbrella, but the Flocana principle is very much craft and small producer, and not coming out with hundreds of thousands of pounds, but maybe a couple hundred pounds per strain.
But in the current system, state by state, California is somewhat different. I know in Virginia and many other states, there's that vertical requirement again. So only the big guys are allowed.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, that makes it. I don't know how the little boutique guys can even compete.
Well, fortunately for you, you're starting your own boutique beverage company.
Yes, and I'm the first and the only one to do a cocktail or a mocktail that's worthy of, that I believe, of my muster. I mean, I've been writing about some of the other producers out there in the market, and then after tasting some of them, not the ones that I've reviewed, but others that I haven't written about, and there are reasons why I haven't written about them. And those reasons are pretty simple. Cannabis drinks suck. And I spoke at the Cannabis Drinks Expo, I think it was last year before, whatever, and I came up on stage. I was a keynote speaker, and I said very clearly, I said, cannabis drinks suck.
Well, how do you get around? How do you get around the taste? Seriously, I mean, that's the complaint people have.
Made with all the best ingredients in the world. Most of the ones that are out there are no more than seltzer. Mine is not a seltzer. A seltzer, my USBG. Gotcha. My friends from the bartending guild, because I'm a master mixologist, they would have my neck if I did a seltzer. I'm not doing it.
I bet.
Yeah, you've got your reputation to think about.
A Bud Light seltzer.
Not only that, I like seltzer with a pastrami sandwich, and the things that I'm making, the cocktails that I'm making, are not necessarily geared towards pastrami.
Well, I think the complaint a lot of people have is that, chlorophyll-y, grassy taste. How do you get around that?
It's not because I'm using something called nanotechnology, and nanotechnology is, it's microscopic. It's, if you pull out one of my hairs, you couldn't even tell it. You can't see it. It's an incredible thing, and there's actually terpenes that are made available in this process that you can taste and you can smell the good parts of the cannabis, not the green part, not that chlorophyll-y part.
Right.
So it smells like it tastes like what it smells. I think that's the word I'm using.
Right.
And the other thing that I'm using mango Trainwreck in my my Mezzerol cocktail, which is named for Louis Armstrong's weed dealer during the 1930s.
Oh, that's great.
During the jazz era, it was a guy named Mez Mezzrow. So I'm naming my cocktail to pay homage to Mez.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
A well-rolled cigarette.
By the way, we're all three musicians. Phil went to Berkeley, keyboard. I'm bass, Jay's guitar.
Oh, I'm an Emerson grad, which is just around the corner.
Yeah, Boston.
Yep.
So Warren, I'm curious about the culture that you find over at Forbes Magazine. It seems to me kind of an interesting place to have a Vices correspondent, being the kind of, I always think of Steve Forbes. He's a conservative, and it's kind of a different culture there.
But they're very pro cannabis.
There are no Forbes at Forbes Magazine anymore.
Is that right?
That I will tell you.
There are no Forbeses?
There are no Forbeses at Forbes. Yeah. They're all gone. They sold off all the Forbes assets. I think in Malcolm's will, it said that they were supposed to dispose of everything, including the building and the toy soldiers. So the toy soldiers are gone. And, it's life goes on. But the Forbes name is venerable, and I hope to add value to what they do.
It's a great website and magazine, and we've had other journalists on from Forbes who are contributors to Forbes, and it seems to me there's a real pro-cannabis culture at Forbes.
Yeah, there really is, and because I think that the people that are the powers that be there, if you will, are most of them are younger than I am. So I can, at 59, I can tell you that they're definitely younger than I am, and they just have a different approach, more of an open-minded approach. Now they do have other groups. I mean, if you look at Forbes and you break it down, there's lifestyle, and lifestyle has watches and guns and this and that, and and we have to be part of it. And my swim lane is THC, and that's something that I want to focus on, and I want to give props to the people who are out there who are doing a good job and being really passionate about what they do.
Well, here on VoteProPot-Cast, I'm kind of the resident conservative, and my job is to preach a message of individual liberty. Almost.
So libertarian approach.
Well, libertarian. I mean, fiscally speaking, I'm much more in tune with the old line Forbes Magazine of. But this is a individual rights issue for me, and I wonder, is that part of the culture there? Do you think?
Yeah, unless I stray out of my swim lane. And I did for a long time.
And you do sometimes.
I was writing about CBD, and I don't write about that stuff anymore because every time I would write about it, I would get an email from one of my editors, and they would say, like, "What are you doing?"
Really?
And it was so hard to say no. I mean, I get pitches every single day from PR agencies and this and that, and even gas station operators, and they're saying, "Will you cover our CBD?" And I'm like, "No."
No.
No. Sorry. Snake oil. My grandfather made Geritol. He was he founded the company that made Geritol, and Geritol was snake oil. And anyone who has a little gray in their hair would probably remember Geritol.
Oh, I remember Geritol.
Yeah.
It was invented for something that no one had, and that was iron poor blood. And no one had
iron poor blood.
Yeah, no one had that. It was supposed to give you vim and vigor into your step, but it didn't do that either. So the FTC and the FDA got together, and they sent my grandfather a love letter in the late 1950s. I was born in 1961, so it was before my time. But I remember that my dad my late father. He was the head of the tax division. And he said that dinner time will never be the same.
No.
They made him sell the company. They literally made him sell the company. Yeah, because it was, what he was doing was making snake oil, and our powers that be frown upon snake oil.
So with Geritol, would you call that a mocktail?
Yeah, possibly. My mom, when I was growing up, gave me Geritol Junior before school in the morning. So yeah, that was like 10 or 15% alcohol, 30 proof.
Nice. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Put some of that in your Cheerios.
Yeah.
Here at VoteProPot, we've been talking about the edibles industry for quite some time, and here in Maryland, we're still trying to get it off the ground. Right now, we only have consumables. But one thing we have to, and as a chef, I worked as a chef in New York City, and I went to culinary school, and I'm also a trained pastry chef as well. And I was in the bar business for 25 years, so I've been bartending for decades. And I really believe that one of the problems with edibles, cookies and brownies are fine. I've had taste some that have a nice flavor, and if you're in the mood, that's okay. But I don't think it's a lot of people are going to use brownies as their main source of THC,
of high getting,
of whatever, whether medicine or recreational. So that's why I think sort of the gummies are kind of where it's at, but beverages. We've been preaching, and I really believe there's going to be a huge future in cannabis beverages, but you can't mix them with alcohol. So I was thinking, is there, the product I would come up with would be a Bloody Mary Jane mix. They just add your own vodka.
So I did a Bloody Mary Jane for in High Times, but I took a different step with that, and I made it with the Clamato juice that you get up in Canada.
Yep. The Clamato.
I made it into to like a Bloody Caesar, and then I infused it with THC.
Yeah. Nice. Man, did you put like shrimp on a stick in it or anything? Or clams.
Well, yeah. But one thing that the problem with edibles, I find, is that you want to dose. You want to be able to dose yourself. You want to know how much you're eating. So that's why like a bowl of hummus or something is nice. But
yeah, that's true, Andrew.
That's
you never
why
know
I
what
find and beverages you can kind of do that. It's like liquor. You know, if you can pour a 1 ounce shot, there's going to be so much THC in it. Or you could also package. You know, I always thought it'd be great to make the little.
I wish it did work that way, but it doesn't, and a lot of it has to do with the potency of the cannabis itself.
Right.
So the medical stuff, the stuff with high CBD, is going to have no effect whatsoever. And it's so funny. I appeared on Viceland on Vice Magazine, their TV show, and they asked me to make them a CBD punch that they could feel, and I thought about it for a second and said, that's really strange. So I was on Viceland, and they asked me to make a CBD cocktail that they could feel. And anyone knows who's worked with CBD knows that you can't feel anything in CBD.
You can't feel it.
There is nothing to feel. If anything, it's going to put you to sleep. And I didn't want to put them to sleep. So I gave them 50% THC, 50% CBD, and unleashed what we call the entourage effect. And destroyed them on live TV.
I got to go back and find that on YouTube.
Good job.
27th, 2019.
I'll do that, definitely. Warren, you're a pretty prolific writer. You've written 6 books now?
6 books, thousands of articles. I've been in the Oxford Encyclopedia of Food and Drink in America. Also, the Gotham edition of the Oxford Encyclopedia. I think I wrote about cocktails or something to do with cocktails.
You don't remember?
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of stuff. And in a short period of time, I mean, I've only left the corporate world in May of 2009. So I've done all this stuff. I mean, I never wrote a word before like 2010.
No kidding.
Wow. You've also done TV and radio, I understand?
Oh, of course. I have a great face for radio, and even better for
We all got a face for radio.
That's why we're podcasting, brother. We're all the same age, by the way. In fact, we're all 3 older than you, but that's another...
Not by much, I'm sure.
Not by much.
No, a year or two.
A year or two, yeah.
1960, I was born.
59.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Well, give us a quick summary of your books. Tell us real quickly what they're...
My first book was called Apothecary Cocktails, and I have a copy of that over here someplace. There's in the...
Now, how does that differ from the current
this is actually the French version, but Apothecary Cocktails was the first book, my first book in 2013, and here it was translated into French for the European market. But it was a view into the early apothecary shop where someone would have some sort of affliction, and they wouldn't necessarily go to a doctor because doctors were out in the field healing broken bones and things of that nature. So preparatory pharmacists or apothecarians were the ones that were making the drugs that we took, and they did all that stuff from scratch. And how that's so important to history in a way is that the fragile ingredients were mostly fresh herbs or preserved herbs, and how do you keep things like that fresh? Well, they didn't have refrigeration. There was no electricity.
Alcohol?
So they used alcohol. And I happened to be down in New Orleans for the yearly event known as Tales of the Cocktail. And I was doing a book signing for my 3rd book, Bitters and Shrub Syrup Cocktails. And at the same time, at the Pharmacy Museum, they were doing an exhibition. And that exhibition was for cannabis in the early apothecary. And at that very moment, I knew what my next book was going to be.
There you go. Yeah. Gotcha. So, I mean, cannabis obviously has been used. THC has been used for
5,000 years of history.
Yeah. But I mean, even in the United States for a couple hundred years.
Well, we haven't been around for 5,000, but in China, 5,000 definitely.
Well, that's interesting. Where can folks go to find your books? I assume Amazon and.
No, I always say you can go to the usual suspects. You can go to Barnes and Noble and Amazon, and if you're up in Canada, you can get it on Indigo. But I always say you should go to an indie bookstore.
There you go.
And the reason why you should go to an indie bookstore is because they're probably a local. They're probably someone who's in your town, and you may or may not have a relationship with. But if you do, They know what kind of books you want, and they can get just about anything these days in a day or two. So I would say before you pick up your computer and say, we're going, oh yeah, there, GPA 420. After you decide what you want, go call your indie bookstore. They need the business. That's
support your local merchants. Absolutely.
Support your local merchants. Anyone can buy anything they want on Amazon. You can have it tomorrow if you have Prime. I appreciate that. I mean, it works
the convenience,
very well.
But you're right.
But it's nice to be able to support a local store.
Agreed.
Well, I've been a bartender for decades, and I mean, I'm just really excited having you on the show. I could ask you, there's a million questions I would love to ask you, and I would really like to sit down and get stoned and drink with you, quite frankly.
I'll second that.
Where are you located?
I'm in Morristown, New Jersey.
Oh, so we're in D.C.
As opposed to Morristown near Philly, this is the northern one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, hopefully when these expos and things start opening back up, we'll try to run and have our paths cross again, hopefully. We're definitely going to rush out and get all your books. I can't wait to read them.
Yeah, I think that, you're going to have trouble getting the French one, but the one that's still in circulation right now is this one. And of course, cannabis cocktails, but the craft cocktail compendium. That's
all right.
My recipes. I've created, I'd say 98% of them are mine. And the only ones that aren't, I asked other people my teachers and people who influenced me over the years, I asked them to give me cocktails.
Right. All put together by a master mixologist.
I worked at a restaurant. I worked as a chef in a restaurant that Dale DeGroff was a consultant in the bar.
Dale's an old friend.
He's great, man. I'll tell you, he's one of them.
It took a long time for Dale to recognize that I existed, but
yeah, he still doesn't recognize me. But one of these days, hopefully,
he's a tough cookie. And
he didn't invent the Cosmopolitan, but he made it famous. I think as the story goes.
I think that Dale's great strength is that he's just the best person with people that I've ever seen. No matter who you are, you're his best customer.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
What do you recommend for our listeners if they want to maybe experiment a little bit with making a drink?
I would stick to the simple things that you can duplicate at home pretty easily without technology. I mean, I'm a scratch trained chef. I went to Johnson & Wales and did the ACF apprenticeship. So I always focus on doing things from scratch. As long as you're able to decarb your cannabis, that means heat it in the oven in a closed container, 240 degrees for an hour, let it rest for about 15 minutes or so before opening it up. If you have a magical butter machine, you can infuse. If you have a Levo 2, you can infuse. In my book, I teach you to do it all from scratch. So, as
what do you think about a sous vide?
I don't at all. I don't like sous vide food. I don't like, people make me like sous vide chicken. I wonder if it's.
Well, I've heard some people using sous vide to decarboxylate.
No, it can't. What is water?
It doesn't get hot enough.
What is water? 212?
Yeah.
You need 240.
Right. That's what I said. I heard some people they said, I'll just keep it in longer.
No, it doesn't work that way.
That didn't make sense to me.
You'll have a flawed decarb.
How do you decarb?
Okay. I'm glad I asked you that question.
Yeah. How do you decarb, Warren? Like a double boiler or?
No, what I use is the Ardent. I have an Ardent Flex, which is contains you put about 4 ounces in it, and you hit the on button, and it gives you a 100% bioavailability in just over an hour.
Wow!
Perfect every time. You never have to worry about your home oven, which is sometimes fluctuates as much as 40 to 60 degrees up and down. And that's a flawed decarb. So when you do your decarb in your oven, you wonder why you didn't get stoned. That's why. So I used the Ardent. I spoke at South by Southwest back in 2018, and with Chanel Lindsay, and we really did shake things up, if you will, because decarbs are really important if you want to have that extra little buzz. And if you don't want the buzz, you can just put weed and whatever and hope for the best. But I think
the machine, you're using was what was that again?
I said the first one. I said the magical butter machine.
Okay.
That does not decarb. You have to decarb the cannabis before it goes into the machine. The other machine is called a Levo 2, with a number 2, Levo with a number 2.
Okay.
And that actually does have a decarb function built in, but it only operates up to 1 cup. Whereas the Magical Butter machine, I think you can do up to 4 cups, like 4 ounces. Levo is really nice. I mean, it's a great machine. And even works, there's an app for my phone. So you can play around with the decarb times. If you want more CBN or CBG, you can do that.
What kind of oil do you recommend? What do you think is the best?
I'm sorry?
What type of oil? Like coconut or?
Coconut oil. Yeah, I use the GMO-free Crisco.
Okay.
That's the best. It doesn't have to be Crisco, but an organic GMO-free, probably a good idea. Anything that you're going to be heating, you should have something that's organic, because who knows what's in there. If you're using your coconut oil that comes from who knows where, and it's produced by who knows who, and you're going to be heating this and putting that in your body, I want to make sure it's the best.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
We did a story a couple weeks ago about they found that they were putting some cannabis beverages in cans. And Jay did the story. And the lining in the can actually depleted the amount of THC.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that. The company that I'm using has a technology that makes it so that doesn't happen.
Are you using cans or glass?
Cans, yeah. I'm using cans. They're I can't tell you exactly what the technology is, but there's a coating on the inside of the can that the THC doesn't adhere to.
That makes sense. That's great.
When do you expect this product to be on the market?
We're hoping for the beginning of November.
Oh wow! Oh, that's
excellent. Moving right along.
Well, it's been in process for almost 2 years now. So I'm happy to say that it's moving right along.
That's exciting.
It feels like glue to me.
I bet. Yeah.
Well, did the COVID pandemic affect the rollout?
No, not at all. No.
That's good.
If anything, it's busier than ever in the cannabis industry, in the beverage industry. They can't keep the stuff on the shelf because, if you live in an apartment and your neighbors don't smoke cannabis and they don't like the way it smells, they're going to make your life very difficult. They're going to complain to the landlord. They're going to say that the cannabis smoke makes they don't like it. It's like cigarette smokers in an apartment. You don't want to have a cigarette smoker next door. Everything's going to smell like cigarettes. I'm not saying that it's bad to have the smell of cannabis, but not everyone likes the smell of cannabis. That's why it's so nice to have a beverage, because I can guarantee you're going to get stoned and no one has to know what you're doing. Because you can mix
and it's refreshing.
Cocktail. Oh, it's crisp and it's aromatic and it's refreshing and it's fun. And
I can't wait to try it.
How potent are your drinks? How many?
10 milligrams for 8 3/4 ounces.
That's perfect.
It's live resin, so it's even more potent.
Perfect.
Okay.
You know what live resin is? That's the most concentrated form of the concentrates.
Live resin also has a different terpene profile than other concentrates.
It does,
doesn't it?
It does, but I'm using the mango train wreck, so the terpene profile is from the mango train wreck, not from the live resin per se.
Right, but I'm thinking that could be a good thing.
Oh, it is a good thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a good thing.
Awesome.
Especially you don't have that chlorophyll flavor. You
don't have any of that green flavor that predominates in a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of cannabis beverages. Most of them taste like nothing.
Yeah, right. Well, cannabis beverages,
seltzer water.
I think they're
taste like
further,
water. I think, or water with flavorings added. That's not necessarily the direction that I want to go in. I wanted to use the best ingredients on earth that I could get. And I had long-time personal relationships with ingredients manufacturers such as Pickett's in Denver, Colorado. They make a Great Britain-style ginger beer syrup, which is spicy, and it tastes like something you would have in the Caribbean. It's really incredible.
Yum.
Then I have a tangerine syrup from a company up in Massachusetts called Fruitations.
Nice.
And that's just pure fruit. And you can mix a delicious craft cocktail with that as the base. That's for my 1851 zombie drink, which is a takeoff on the 1934 zombie drink. I was a rum judge, so you have to think about
Damn,
the
that
rum
sounds good. My mouth is watering right now.
And then I would recommend that zombie to be drunk with a little rum agricole, but that's for you to do at home because obviously, I can't advise you to do it, but I can tell you it tastes delicious with rum agricole from Martinique.
Well, it sounds delicious.
Freshly crushed sugar cane juice as opposed to molasses.
Oh, nice. Well, Warren, we're really happy that you joined us today, and really just on short notice. And we're going to list your books on our show description, so folks can get right to that and go to your local bookstore and pick them up. And the latest one is Cannabis Cocktails, Mocktails, and Tonics, correct?
Actually, I'm going to correct you. The latest one is the Craft Cocktail Compendium. The fourth book was the Cannabis Cocktails, Mocktails, and Tonics. All
right. Well, we're going to list them all, and I'm going to get some. I know Andrew needs to get his copy, and we're going to keep an eye on you on your articles on Forbes Magazine. Warren Bobrow.
And let us know when the next book comes out.
Right.
We're going to have you back on the show.
We'll have you back.
In that drink.
Hopefully you'll have me back before my next book because I'm not writing any more books right now. But
all right. Well, we'll have you back when you launch the drink, when the drink is out, and
definitely.
We're all gonna enjoy it together. So
we wish you really all the best with your business ventures here out in California. I think I love the idea, the concept, and I just love craft, artisanal. I love artists getting involved.
Absolutely.
That's what I think. I can appreciate the Chick-fil-A sandwich, but sometimes I want just the local chef to make something for me.
I like, I'm a scratch-trained chef, a saucier, so I love the idea of flavors that are coaxed from nature.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
All right.
We got to party. I want to party with you, dude. I definitely want to party with you.
Yeah, really. Who would have this?
I love it. The Thomas Jefferson.
My new lobby. This is really
nice.
All right, Holmes. All right, Warren Bobrow, we will be in touch. Folks, we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, if you get a mind to, go on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating, share us with a friend. What else, Jay?
Send us an email at podcast@VoteProPot.com and check out our mugs. Go to our website and buy a mug. Support the cause.
Absolutely.
Andrew?
And people, and also if you haven't registered to vote, get out and register to vote. Talk to everyone you know over the 18 or someone who's going to be 18 before November.
Just do it.
Get them to register. Grab them. You can register online. Then you can go to VoteProPot.com or Rock the Vote. You can register online. And then once you're registered, apply for an absentee ballot. You can do the whole process with a joint hanging out of your mouth from your couch. You don't have to get off your ass to do it. You can register, you can vote, and you can change it.
Let me just give you one takeaway. I was in Russia in 2015, and I was told not to speak about politics, but every single person who came up to me said, "Why don't Americans vote?"
Boy, that's a good point. That's a damn good question.
Yeah, it's a damning question.
So for Russians asking me, they would do anything to vote
for the opportunity.
You're damn right. You're damn right. What else, Andrew?
The only thing worse than someone who can't vote is someone who doesn't vote,
and then bitches about it,
and then is apathetic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, okay. Also, if you would like to find out more about VoteProPot and politics and everything that about to do. Let me try that again.
Just spit it out.
There's so much going on in the world of cannabis, we can't scratch it on. We can't even scratch the surface on our podcast. So we share a lot of information on our social networking platforms. So just go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and do a search for VoteProPot.